Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to be going over the NFL draft losers. I just uploaded my winners from the NFL draft. If you haven't seen that, make sure to go check it out. I also, before that, did my rookie winners and my rookie losers. So if you haven't seen those, make sure to go check those out. Today's going to be the last video in that series where I'm going over the veteran losers. Like I mentioned in the other one, some of these guys are going to be a lot bigger losers than other guys. And I'm going to be going in order of running back, wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end. Before I actually get into it, I just want to say if you like this content, please drop a like. It really helps out a ton. Also subscribe to my channel. I'll have a bunch more fantasy content coming for everyone during this off season. Now with that out of the way, let's actually get into these losers. All right, now one of the biggest losers who I think is pretty obvious is going to be Tyler Algier. The Falcons spent their 8th overall pick on Bijan Robinson, who's one of the best running back prospects we've seen coming out of the draft in a while, probably since Saquon. And so this is just completely kills any value that Tyler Algier had. Really just sends him to be an automatic backup, which he will be a good backup at that, but there's just no way he's going to have any standalone fantasy value going forward. Really unfortunate because he was a great rookie pick last year in the 5th round, went for over 1,000 yards. Really a bummer to see, but Bijan's going to be awesome there. And the next obvious loser in the running back position is going to be Kenneth Walker, obviously. They spent a 2nd round pick on Zach Charbonnet, who is not as good as Kenneth Walker, but definitely is good enough to eat into his work a lot. A much better pass catcher than Kenneth, so he'll get most of that work, I assume, and he'll be able to split it almost 50-50, I would assume. I mentioned in my other video, I still think Kenneth Walker can be a top 10 running back, but more in that back end of the top 10, top 12 running back, rather than where I had him ranked at like that running back 4 or 5 spot. I think thinking about this as like Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt from a couple years ago is a good way to consider it. I think that's how it'll be used, but the fact that they also have weapons like JSN, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, it makes me hard to believe that they can all be utilized and all be fantasy relevant. So I think overall, Kenneth Walker definitely going to take a hit from this draft. And another guy who I haven't seen a lot of people talk about as being a loser, but I think he is, maybe it's just because I have him and I feel, some emotional attachment to him, but it's going to be Travis Etienne. Again, I don't think he's a massive loser. I think it's very small. I just think the fact of him being a full workhorse is not totally there. The fact they spent a day 2 draft pick on Tank Bigsby, who I think is a good running back. Obviously, though, Travis Etienne is a much better running back, and I think that Travis Etienne should be pretty much good, and I'm not too worried about it, but I definitely do have some reservations. The fact that they spent a day 2 draft pick on Etienne, he has been hurt a little bit, so I understand why they want to, but I kind of wish it was more in the 4th round rather than in day 2. So I don't think it's a massive hit, but I do think that Travis Etienne, small loser from this draft. And the last running back that I want to talk about is going to be Khalil Herbert. The Chicago Bears took Roschon Johnson in the 4th round, so not a very high draft capital investment, but it is higher than they took Khalil Herbert with a couple years ago. I do still think, though, that Herbert, it'll be his job to lose, so I think Herbert should be fine, but overall, it definitely hurts his value, just given the fact that there's another good running back that'll be able to take some work from him, and Roschon's probably a better pass catcher, so I imagine that opportunity that could have gone to him is not going to be there anymore. So another guy, not a massive loser, but definitely takes a hit. Now moving on to the wide receivers, the first guy that I want to mention is going to be Tyler Lockett. Definitely got to be a loser with JSN being drafted in the 1st round. Now, I mentioned in the other video too that they don't really play the same position, so it's not that big of a worry. I just think that this starts to make Tyler Lockett a little bit more disposable and starting to make the move to prepare for him to be gone since he's going to be 31 this upcoming season. I still think this year he should be fine, but definitely a small hit taken from him as JSN is drafted in the 1st round. Very similar situation to this next guy who's going to be Mike Williams, who has been hurt a lot of his career. When he's on the field, he tends to be really good, but he's just been hurt a lot, and I can understand why the team wants to plan for him not being there. And they used the pick right after JSN to take Quentin Johnston, who honestly reminds me a lot of Mike Williams. I just think that QJ is more explosive, faster, but they do play a similar style. So I think they're going to start trying to kind of work him into the offense, kind of start to replace Mike there. Probably want to look for another possession receiver like Keenan Allen, but I definitely think they're starting to plan with the future with Herbert since they know that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are really on a timeline. Another guy who's a loser, just going in order of how this fell in the draft, but Rashad Bateman got to be a massive loser since they spent their 1st round pick on Zay Flowers right after QJ. And Zay and Rashad, slightly different builds, but they play somewhat of a similar position in the offense. And the fact that Lamar Jackson won't be a very high passing volume really takes away the opportunity for Rashad Bateman to be like great for fantasy. Could definitely still have games here and there since he can break away for long touchdowns, but it's hard for me to imagine Rashad Bateman really being a consistent wide receiver going forward. So I think the fact that they also spent their first round pick on him is definitely going to be a downgrade for Rashad Bateman overall. Moving on to the second round of the wide receivers, I think one of the losers here is going to be Romeo Doubs. They spent their second round pick on Jaden Reed, and I think that he's going to eat a lot more into Dobbs' workload than Christian Watson's. I still think they should all be on the field for 3 wide receiver sets, but I mean, I don't think that Jordan Love's going to be able to sustain 3 wide receivers, let alone 2 in his first year starting. We'll have to see. I could be proven wrong. Who knows? He could be the next Aaron Rodgers, but I'm probably not going to bet on that right now. And I think that Jaden Reed draft pick definitely hurts Dobbs the most. Another smaller loser who I haven't seen a ton of people talked about is going to be Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. They spent a 3rd round pick on Josh Downs, who was a good wide receiver, and they also took Anthony Richardson in the 1st round. So I think the fact that Michael Pittman is ahead of him, the fact that they spent a day 2 draft pick on a wide receiver, and Anthony Richardson probably will not be a high volume player. I think that this really pushes Alec Pierce down the depth chart and down the fantasy rankings, which is unfortunate because I really did like him his rookie year. I thought he was a big surprise, but I think overall he's got to be a loser. Moving on to the quarterback, the only real quarterback loser that I have is going to be Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, the Titans traded up and took Will Levis in the 2nd round. Since he did fall a lot, that definitely helps Ryan Tannehill out somewhat, but Will Levis was definitely drafted to replace Ryan Tannehill. I mean, they tried to replace him with Malik Willis last year. That obviously did not work out. Now they got Will Levis, so the writing is on the wall. They want Ryan Tannehill out of there. We will see if it happens. If Ryan Tannehill does not play good to start the year, we will feel the pressure for Will Levis to come in. So we'll see if he's got it or not, but the time is ticking on Ryan Tannehill. So if anyone's hoping that he can be good for you going forward, I would not rely on that too much. And the last guy that I want to mention, the only tight end who I think is a loser, but is a massive loser, it's got to be Dawson Knox. I mean, the Bills traded up in the 1st round to go get Dalton Kincaid. They talked about him, how he's just going to be basically a receiver. They've talked about how they play different positions and that Dawson Knox will be much more of a blocker. Even though Dawson Knox just got paid recently, I think he'll still be fine and he can have good weeks. And if he gets pushed down far enough, there could be value there, especially in like a best ball format, because Dawson Knox will have weeks where he scores touchdown. But overall, his fantasy value just absolutely plummeted when Dalton Kincaid got drafted, when they traded up to get him. First tight end off the draft board. Just so many things went against him. He got absolutely killed in this draft, but still, I think he should have some decent weeks given the offense that he's on, and he has the familiarity, and he's going to be a part of the offense just given he's getting paid, but any consistency is completely gone. But yeah, those are the main losers that I have from this draft. Let me know if there's anyone I left off of it. Do you think any of these guys are actually winners? Let me know what you guys think. There should be more content coming soon. Probably going to get into some mock drafts now that some more things are set in stone. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.